Turn to Proverbs 6:13. We are continuing with what we started last week in this section about the wicked man, the naughty person that walks with a froward mouth. And in verse 13, it says, "He winketh with his eyes, he speaketh with his feet, he teacheth with his fingers." It's kind of an interesting verse, and I think we have some neat things to look at here on it tonight. So these are all actions that are clandestine or like secret methods of communication that wicked men use to convey nonverbal information to other wicked men. So in other words, when they want to tell other wicked people that are in the know something and convey something to them, they're not using words, they're using symbols with either their eyes, their feet, or their fingers. And we'll look at all of those things tonight. So let's look at the first part there. He winketh with his eyes. To wink is to close one's eyes. It can also be used figuratively. And then it's also, when you go down a few definitions, it is to give a significant glance as of command, direction, or invitation. And then it can be used with words, like to or at. So to wink to somebody or wink at somebody. And so when you put these two things together, you're physically actually closing your eye, but you are giving a significant glance or command or direction or invitation. Like if you look at somebody and wink at them, letting them know, hey, go ahead, or do something, whatever was agreed upon beforehand. If you turn with me to Psalm 35 in verse 19, we'll see that this is a tactic of the wicked when they want to signal their evil intentions to other conspirators. Psalm 35 and verse 19. Now, like many things, there are harmless winks, and I'll talk about that if I remember here in a minute. And then there are also sinister, evil winks. So it just depends on who's winking and who's winking at whom and what the connotation is with it. Psalm 35 and verse 19, this is definitely an evil one. It says, "Let not them that are mine enemies wrongfully rejoice over me, neither let them wink with the eye that hate me without a cause." Does that verse jump out at anybody? Like, does it remind you of anything that you may have read somewhere else in the Bible?
Without a cause, you mean like Christ?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's actually a prophecy of the conspirators that arranged the death of our Lord Jesus Christ. You look in John 15 and verse 25. John 15 and verse 25. But I want you to notice these people, as you turn there, that they wink with the eye that hate me without a cause. Now, this part was not mentioned in John 15 when Jesus quoted it, but it wouldn't surprise me if the people that hated him without a cause, that were trying to orchestrate his death, were winking at each other, right, giving symbols, because they tried to take him numerous times, and that would be a good way to say, okay, do it, give him a wink. I'm not very good at winking. I've been practicing, but it's hard. It's hard to blink with only one eye. But John 15:25, Jesus said, "But this cometh to pass, that the word might be fulfilled that is written in their law." So he's talking about the Jews. "They hated me without a cause." And he said before that if they hated me, they're going to hate you also, and they hate me because they hated my Father. And these were ultimately the people that had Jesus put to death. These are the ones that conspired together. If you look in Psalm 69, in verse 4, there's another place where Jesus is quoting from. He's quoting from one or the other, or probably both, because a lot of times in Scripture there'll be different places where it said similar things. Psalm 69 and verse 4, he said, "They hate me without a cause. They that hate me without a cause are more than the hairs of mine head. They that would destroy me, being mine enemies wrongfully, are mighty. Then I restored that which I took not away." So here the people that hate him without a cause were trying to destroy him. And when you put it together with Psalm 35, they were winking as they were doing so. And so when you compare this with some verses in the New Testament, you'll see the people that were trying to that were conspiring against Jesus were doing it to destroy him. Let me give you some verses in Mark 3 and verse 6. Mark 3 and verse 6. It says, "And the Pharisees went forth, and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him." So when you put that together with the verse in John 15, they hated me without a cause, and then back in Psalm 69, they that hate me without a cause try to destroy me. And here Jesus is talking about, or the scripture is talking about the same people that hated him without a cause, the Pharisees. They took counsel to destroy him. So there was a little bit of chicanery going on there, a little winking of the eye, a little bit of conspiracy being planned. Look at Mark 11 and verse 18. Mark 11 and verse 18. It says, "And the scribes and chief priests heard it, and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people was astonished at his doctrine." So whenever you have all the people that are astonished, all the people, it says the common man heard him gladly, the people followed him, the people loved Jesus, a lot of them. The Pharisees hated him, and they had to stir the people up to turn the people against him, and that's why a conspiracy was necessary. And that's why this type of stuff, winking with the eyes, speaking with the feet, teaching with the fingers, is necessary to work under the radar so people don't know what's happening. Matthew 27 and verse 20. It's like Conrad said one time, that 5% of the people make things happen. 5% of the people make things happen. 15% of the people help to make things happen, and 80% of the people have no idea what's happening. And it's probably pretty close when it comes to things on a grand scale, especially when you think about some of the heinous conspiracies that have been perpetrated on nations, right? Most of the people have no idea what's going on until long after the fact, and then we can start putting all the pieces together and saying, hey, something ain't right here. There's no way this happened the way they said it did. But at the time, nobody has any idea what's going on except for just a choice few, and then a few more that are their pawns that'll just do whatever they pay them or tell them to do, and they don't probably really even know what's going on in the broader scope of things. Matthew 27 and verse 20. It says, "But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus." So there you have 3 verses talking about how they wanted to destroy him, matching very nicely with what he said, that they that hate me without a cause seek to destroy me. And they did so with the winking of the eye. Now it says in Proverbs 10 and verse 10 that he that winks with the eye causeth sorrow. Proverbs 10 and verse 10. It says, "He that winketh with the eye causeth sorrow, but a prating fool shall fall." Well, he could cause sorrow for his victims, obviously, right? If you are the victim of a conspiracy, you're going to be sorrowful. He could cause sorrow for himself whenever he ultimately gets caught, whenever that might be, maybe now or later at the judgment. He could cause sorrow for his family whenever they're ashamed of who this guy is once he's found out to have been conspiring and plotting evil things. So yeah, he that winks with the eye causeth sorrow. And Job 15 is an interesting passage which shows us that winking with the eyes is a sign that a man has turned his spirit against God. Job 15, verses 12 through 13. Job 15, 12 through 13. It says, "Why doth thine heart carry thee away, and what do thy eyes wink at, that thou turnest thy spirit against God, and lettest such words go out of thy mouth?" So there's an association made here with winking the eye and turning the spirit against God. And people that and you could look at this probably at least in two different ways. But remember, to wink the eye means to close the eye. At the times of this ignorance, we're told in Acts 17, the Lord winked at. He closed his eyes, like he chose not to see it. So those that wink the eye, that close their eyes to say, hey, we knew it not, right? They remember in Proverbs 24, whenever you see somebody that's carried away unto death, ready to be slain, and you say, behold, we knew it not. So those that close their eyes have turned their spirit against God in that way. Or those that wink with the eye, like these types that we're reading about here in Proverbs 6, likewise have turned their spirits against God. And then I have a quote here from John Gill on this part of the verse. He winketh with the eye. John Gill said, "It is the air and gesture of sneering and deceitful man who gives the wink to some of his friends, sneering at the weakness of another in company, or as signifying to them some secret design of his against another, which he chooses not to declare in any other way." So he's giving two examples here of winking with the eye that would be evil. First of all, if you do so to sneer at the weakness of a friend in company. You've probably seen people that have done this before. Hopefully you haven't done it yourself. You're around a group of people, and maybe there's some guy there that some guy thinks another guy is a doofus, or he's just a simpleton, and maybe the guy says something, and you just kind of look at your friend and just kind of wink at him like, look at this idiot, or you're making fun of him, and the guy, he's too dense to even realize you're making fun of him, and you wink at the friend to let him know. That's one of the things Gill is referring to there. And then the second one is what we've been looking at already, that he's doing it with some secret design that he's not communicating verbally. And then the second part of the verse says he speaketh with his feet. I don't have as much to say about this. I looked through the Bible and I couldn't really find examples of this in the scripture. I will give you a quote from Gill. I thought he made a pretty good point. He said, "The motions of the feet have a language. The stamping of the feet expresses rage. Here it seems to intend the giving of him to another, but by privately pressing his foot with his, when he should be silent or should speak, do this or the other thing he would have him to do." So in other words, like say you're at a business meeting, you're sitting at the table next to somebody, and the deal is, and you both know it, that if I step on your foot, you either shut up or you start talking or whatever, and if you start running your mouth and your lawyer steps on your foot, be quiet because you're saying something you shouldn't be, or this is your cue, step on your foot. This is whenever you start making a false accusation or whatever, right? So you speak with your feet. And I think that's probably a pretty good example or interpretation of what is being spoken of here.
Kind of akin to like, you can't nudge somebody as easily maybe in that situation. Like,
Right, exactly. Yeah, the using the foot is a lot less obvious than the elbow. And then he teacheth with his fingers. Now, I defined teach for you here a few weeks ago and found it interesting that the primary definition has not to do with giving instruction like we typically think of teach, but it actually means to show, present, or offer to view, to show or point out a thing, the way, a place, etc., to a person, to show a person the way, to direct conduct, convoy, guide to, from a place, to send away, also to direct or refer to something, to show what is to be observed or done, to direct, point, prescribe, decree, enjoin. And that's actually probably a good application of the definition for this context here. He teacheth with his fingers, because you are pointing, right? And in this case, it's not so obvious. I mean, you can teach with your fingers. Hey, go there, do this, right? But in this case, this is more secret and clandestine. But he's still using his fingers to teach, to point, to show the way. And I'll give you some examples of this here in a minute. Then, of course, teach the second primary definition, and that sounds like a contradiction, but it's not. In the OED, you'll have primary definitions of words broken up with Roman numerals. So the second primary is to show by way of information or instruction. To teach a thing means to impart or convey the knowledge of, to give instruction or lessons in a subject, to make known, deliver a message. So in this case, you can teach with your fingers by pointing, and you are giving instruction, just not verbally. Now, there's a lot, yeah, question?
Wagner, did you miss this on purpose, or?
Oh, I did miss a section there on the, yeah, thank you. On the teaching, speaking with the feet. There are certain standing postures that can convey messages to those who are in the know. If you're tapping your foot, or if you're standing there with your foot pointing in a certain direction, or things. I've been told, and I wasn't able to find this, but I've been told that Masons stand in a certain way with like their feet at a 90-degree angle, kind of like standing at attention, only it would be a little bit more pronounced. So there are ways that you can stand that can convey messages to people as well. So there are some examples in the scripture of using hand or head signals to convey information. There's actually quite a few of them. You look in Luke 1 and verse 22. Luke 1:22. I'll show you some good examples of teaching with the fingers. Because like I said, you can do it for good or you can do it for evil. It just depends on the context. Luke 1 and verse 22. This is whenever Zacharias, John the Baptist's father, went dumb because he didn't believe what the angel told him. And in verse 22 it says, "And when he came out, he could not speak unto them, and they perceived that he had seen a vision in the temple, for he beckoned unto them and remained speechless." To beckon is to make a mute signal or significant gesture with the head, hand, finger, etc. Now, especially in order to bid a person approach. It's also, so if you beckon, it's intransitively when there's no object. And in this case, it does say that he, this would be intransitive. He beckoned unto them. If they say it beckoned with the hand or something, then it's a transitive case where there's an object to the verb. And that means to make a mute signal or significant gesture of head or hand to a person as commanding his attention or action, and especially his approach, hence to summon or bid approach by such a gesture. So they're very similar. So, you've probably seen somebody beckon with the head like, hey, they kind of tilt their head back a little bit or tilt their head forward, that kind of thing. Or when you beckon with the hand and you put your hand up, maybe you do something to hey, come on, let's move along, or whatever, things like that. That's beckoning with the hand. Let me give you another example. Luke 5 and verse 7. I remembered this, that Paul did this in Acts 21 whenever he was speaking to the Jews, and then when I got searching the Word, I found a whole bunch of examples that I didn't remember. Luke 5 and verse 7 says, "And they beckoned unto their partners, which were in the other ship, that they should come and help them. And they came and filled both the ships, so that they began to sink." So they beckon either with the hand or the head. Hey, God, come over here. Get over here. Need some help. John 13 and verse 24. This should really come to no surprise to any of us, but it is just kind of interesting to think that the things that we do today, 2,000 years later, when we use our head or our hands, and people have been doing that forever. Human nature, human activity is no different than it's ever been. John 13 and verse 24. "Simon Peter therefore beckoned to him," that is to John, "that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake." So Jesus just said one of them is going to betray him, and Peter's like, ask him who it is. He can't tell him who it was, but he's using his hands, trying to get the skinny. And then Acts 12 and verse 17. Acts 12 and verse 17. This is whenever Peter was in prison, and then he gets out of prison miraculously, and he comes and knocks on the door, and they don't. At first, they were so excited they didn't even believe it was him. And then in verse 16, it says, "But Peter continued knocking, and when they had opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. And what verse did I want?
17.
Oh, 12. I was looking at the other one. 12:17. But he, beckoning unto them with the hand to hold their peace, declared unto them how the Lord had brought him out of the prison. And they said, Go, and he said, Go show these things unto James and to the brethren. And he departed and went into another place. So they were so astonished, and he's like, guys, keep quiet here. I want to tell you something. So he beckons with the hand, telling them to quiet down. And by the way, that's a good way to get a crowd to quiet down. If you ever need to give a presentation or something and people are just milling about and talking and it's loud, rather than screaming, which is kind of embarrassing. If you have a really bellowing voice, it's fine. Somebody like me, that doesn't work. But just stand there and just put your hand up. And eventually somebody's going to notice you, and then another person's going to notice you, and before they're going to say, hey, look, and then before you know it, the room will quiet down. So you can do that. And Paul did that. Numerous people have done that, as I will show you here in the scripture. Acts 13 and verse 16. And some people are just too darn rude to shut up when they see a speaker go up to the podium and start to ask, can I have your attention? I've experienced that too, and it irritates me to no end, both when it's been done to me or anybody else for that matter. Just really tears me up whenever a speaker's trying to speak and people are talking, and I just like to go and commit an atrocity when I see something like that. I'm being a little bit, using a bit of hyperbole, but Acts 13 and verse 16. It says, Then Paul stood up, and beckoning with his hand said, Men of Israel, and ye that fear God, give audience. So he beckons with his hand to get them quieted down, and then he says, listen up. I got something to tell you. And he preaches the gospel to them. Acts 19 and verse 33. Acts 19 and verse 33. It says, And they drew Alexander out of the multitude, the Jews putting him forward, and Alexander beckoned with the hand and would have made his defense unto the people. But when they knew that he was a Jew, all with one voice, about the space of 2 hours, cried out, Great is Diana of the Ephesians. Now that takes rudeness up to another level. When you try to talk and then they chant you down for 2 hours, you can't reason with a mob, with a multitude, with a tumult. It's not going to happen. And then Acts 21 and verse 40, Paul did this again. And when he had given him license, Paul stood on the stairs and beckoned with the hand unto the people. And when there was made a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue, saying, This is a good thing to take note of, that anytime you need to get the attention of a crowd, beckon with the hand, wait for there to be silence. And Acts 24 and verse 10, one more. Then Paul, after that the governor had beckoned unto him to speak, answered, Forasmuch as I know that thou hast been of many years a judge unto this nation, I do the more cheerfully answer for myself. So Paul was waiting to give his defense to Felix, and Felix beckoned with the hand and said, All right, go ahead. And he gave his defense. So these instances of beckoning are all wholesome. But then there's what the wicked do, and they use their fingers to direct their followers and to impart secret messages to them. One group that's notorious for this is Masons, are Masons. Masons use their fingers to give secret handshakes to let others know that they are a fellow Mason. And you can look them up. Let me see your hand. Like if you shake other hand, you don't shake left-handed. Come on, that's like I don't know what kind of handshake that is. But if you're like a first degree, I don't know if you put the thumb on the knuckle, and there's different degrees where you put your thumb different places, and so then they know when you get somebody that shakes your hand strangely like that, and he's putting his finger on your thumb or his thumb on your knuckle, just look at him and say, I know the secret, buddy. You worship Lucifer, and he'll probably leave. But anyway, yeah, just get real close to him and whisper Mahabon in his ear, and he'll get freaked out. I forget. It's some Masonic secret word. I read about it years ago. I can't remember what it means now, but anyway. Actually, he might think you're a Mason then. So.
Yes.
And then Hollywood and political elites, actors, entertainers in the Illuminati, they frequently make hand signals. I'm going to give you 10 of them. So there's the OK symbol. That's also the 666 symbol. You think, how's it 666? Look at it. 6, 6, 6. See it?
It should be curved a little bit, lovey.
Mm-hmm.
Still now. I mean, we used
Yeah.
to do that. I think now I just
Yeah.
But that's old.
Oh yeah. Oh, it is old. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. It's and I'll talk about this at the end. People do it, and they have no idea what it is or what it means. You see people do it all the time. I've done it. Okay. Like good job or whatever. But yeah, that is the 666 sign. So I guess for people that are hearing this and not here, when you join the index finger and the thumb together and then the other three fingers are extended, that's the OK symbol. That's what I call it anyway. And then there's the OK symbol over one or both of the eyes, either right side up or upside down. This one's a lot more obvious. When you do this, when you put the OK symbol over your eye, or now I'm not flexible enough, but if you did it upside down, I can't do it, but you could do that. I mean, the whole way upside down, like when your fingers are pointing down. Yeah, like Christina, she's obviously got a lot of practice at it, but anyway, that's another one. And I'll give you a link here, which you can look at this website, and it'll show all kinds of. Braden, he's learning all kinds of bad things. Anyway, you can see examples of a lot of entertainers, singers, politicians, people making these symbols. Now, I'm not saying that every picture in there of somebody giving one of these symbols means that they're in a secret society or something. They may just be like the rest of us, like, hey, good job, buddy, or whatever. But when you see this stuff, when you see the website, I think some of them will be, they're pretty clear to me. They're pretty obvious. But anyway, you want to take it on a case-by-case basis. Then there's the V sign or the peace sign. And it's sometimes used sideways in front of one or both of the eyes. So when you see somebody doing this, they're not saying peace, dude. It's like some kind of occultic, it's like the all-seeing eye type of thing, either in front of both the eyes or in front of one of them. And you'll see these entertainers doing that. And you think, why are they doing that? That's why. And teach your kids not to do this stuff. You'd be amazed at how many kids, and they don't know any different, but I was at my cousin's place for Thanksgiving, and I look at the pictures afterwards. We got a whole family picture, and the kids are all doing all these weird, and I forget, like other hand symbols. I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
People
they don't.
behind the other guy's head, and this guy doesn't even know when the picture's being snapped that there's a thing behind his symbol.
The bunny ears.
And I think that's okay. I don't know. And I'm not saying giving the peace sign or bunny ears is evil, but some of these other symbols that these kids are doing, like this one, I'll tell you what that is in a second, and this one, and things like that, those are evil symbols. Now, if you don't know any different, it's one thing, but don't let your kids do that kind of stuff.
Well, Asian people do that when they take pictures to just show like a cute gesture.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Japanese people do it.
I know, they're all pagans, that's why. And then you have the pyramid sign with the thumbs and index fingers joined together to form a triangle. So like either right side up or upside down, one of the two. And the triangle, all-seeing eye. You ever see the back of a dollar bill, right, with the pyramid on the back with the eye on the top? And then you also have the pyramid sign over one of the eyes. So they'll do this, or they'll do this, like where they're looking at you through one of their eyes. Kind of like what you do if you're trying to find your dominant eye, and right? But they do that too for symbols. Or sitting there, if they were sitting there like this with their, with their hands kind of like this with an upside down pyramid. Now, like I said, don't make a man an offender for a word, because I've done that myself in sermons and been accused of being a Mason before, and I didn't even know what the symbol meant. And I wasn't doing it as a symbol. I was just, putting my hands together for whatever reason. Then you have what I call the I love you symbol. You've seen this before, right? Otherwise known as devil horns, which is your pinky and index finger up and thumb up, and then your middle two fingers down. That's the devil horns. And then there's also different versions of the devil horns. So there's the devil horns with the index and pinky up and the thumb, index and pinky finger up and thumb, or the thumb and pinky finger up. So you have this one, that's the devil horns with the index and the pinky, or this one, pinky and thumb up. Either one are devil horns, and you'll see a lot of this in Hollywood. Now, they have plausible deniability, like when George Bush did it, because that's the horns of Texas, Longhorn, Texas, whatever. So, was that really what he was doing, or is he really signaling something else? I don't know. I'll let you figure that out. And then you have the hand over one eye sign, and you'll see pictures of these weirdos like this with a hand over their eye. And this, you see this website, and they like magazine shots and things. They weren't like just saying, oh, rubbing their eyes and somebody took a candid shot. They're doing it on purpose, right? Hand over the eye, the all-seeing eye thing. And then there's the old hidden hand sign. That one's been around forever. You ever see pictures of Napoleon Bonaparte, and he's got his hand in his vest, where his one hand is covered up? That is an ancient Masonic occultic symbol, and you look at this site, you'll see different people doing that. One hand in their coat or in their vest, so their hand's hidden. And then you have the Nazi salute. Of course, everybody knows that one, right? Your hand up at like a 45-degree angle. So these are all occultic symbols, hand symbols, that people use to signal to others that they're in the club. And there's no doubt about it. When you see some of these pictures of some of these pop singers, and then usually somebody have to point it out to you because you're not up on it, you're not paying attention, but somebody points it out and you see in the background of the stage all these 666 symbols, all these evil symbols, Baphomet symbols. Baphomet's the goat with the horns and the phallus coming up in the middle, and he's got breasts like a woman, and you've probably seen it's a disgusting looking thing. But anyway, like all these symbols all over the place, and they're doing all these weird things, and they're doing it for a reason. They're signaling, what they are to people in the know. You can check it out. IlluminatiSymbols.info/signs is the website you can take a look at, and you can make your own decisions there. Like I said, I'm not saying that everybody making those symbols is a secret Mason or something. Some of these hand symbols, like I said, they've just made their way into popular culture and are casually used by ignorant people that have no knowledge of their secret meaning at all, like the OK symbol, or I think even the thumbs up is another one I read somewhere. So a lot of people are doing it and they have no clue. Like I said, I myself have been accused of being a closet Mason for doing the pyramid symbol, and I'm not sure which other one. It was on the Flat Earth sermons that I did, and the guy was really suspicious of me, because people that are into the Flat Earth, a lot of them are really into it, and they think it's the biggest conspiracy ever, and NASA and all the powerful elites have been trying to hide the fact from all of us that the Earth is flat, and they don't want us to know this, and they've been, coming up with this grand conspiracy so that nobody knows it, because if we knew the Earth was flat, then we know there's a God, I guess is their argument. So anyway, people like that they're always looking for things like that, looking for excuses. So I did the upside down pyramid thing just because I was just doing something with my hands, just bringing my index fingers and thumbs together. And I had an Adidas shoe box, which was the pastor's box, on the counter next to me, and the symbol for Adidas is a pyramid. Put the two of these things together, it is obvious that Chad Wagner is a closet Mason. Nobody could argue against this, obviously. Why do you think I'm preaching against the flat earth? I'm part of the conspiracy. Yeah, no kidding. So you don't want to make a man an offender for a word or a hand symbol without proof that he is intentionally doing so to promote evil. Look at Isaiah 29 and verse 21. And then this guy, interestingly enough, Pastor Mott's going to be mentioning the same thing in his Bible study tonight, and we didn't get together on this. But this same guy that accused me of this sent Pastor Mott a book on the flat earth, and with a letter, not signed, no return address, didn't tell him who it was. Of course, he probably doesn't want to be, have the Illuminati called on him or something. But anyway, saying that an associate of Pastor Mott's has been flashing Masonic hand symbols, and he's suspicious of this, and he gave him the videos and the timestamps and when I was doing this. And so Pastor Mott asked me about that. I'm like, yeah, that was me. And because it was my sermons. I mean, I knew for a fact it was me. But anyway, yeah, people are something. Isaiah 29 and verse 21 says that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. So you don't want to make a man an offender for a word. Somebody says something either without thinking, maybe it was wrong, but without thinking, or they didn't even know it was wrong. Maybe they said something and they didn't even know what they said. Don't make a man an offender for that. And don't look at every politician that gives you the okay sign and think that, oh, he's part of the secret club. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, who knows. Now let me give you a few quotes here to finish up this verse. This one's from Matthew Henry in his commentary on this passage. He says, he has the subtlety of a serpent and carries on his projects with a great deal of craft and management, with his eyes, with his feet, with his fingers. He expresses his malice when he dares not speak out, so some. Or rather, thus he carries on his plot. Those about him, whom he makes use of as tools of his wickedness, understand the ill meaning of a wink of his eye, a stamp of his feet, the least motion of his fingers. He gives orders for evil doing, and yet would not be thought to do so, but has ways of concealing what he does, so that he may not be suspected. He is a close man, and upon the reserve. Those only shall be let into the secret that would do anything he would have them to do. He is a cunning man, and upon the trick. He has a language by himself, which an honest man is not acquainted with, nor desires to be. And that last part is very true. An honest man is not acquainted with all of his symbols, nor desires to be. I did enough research to find out some symbols and tell you what they are, but honestly, I didn't dig down to find out what each of these things mean and on all of the intricacies of them. I don't even want to know. I just know enough to know that these are occultic, satanic symbols, and people that use them are evil if they're using them for that purpose, and that's enough. I don't need to know anything else. I don't need to read a bunch of occultic books to figure out all the hidden meanings. This is a quote from John Gill, commenting on this passage. He says, the whole of it seems to design the secret, cunning, artful ways which wicked men have to convey their meanings to one another, without being understood by other persons. They have a language to themselves, which they express by the motions of their eyes, feet, and fingers. In this character of art and cunning, dissimulation and deceit fitly agrees with the man of sin, 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 10. And then Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown in their commentary said, if, for fear of detection, he does not speak, he uses signs to carry on his intrigues. These signs are still so